Good evening. I would like to officially call the board meeting for Elk Grove Unified School District to order. The board will be meeting in closed session. Thank you.
Hello.
Okay, there we go. Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. The board met in closed session and no action was taken. And I would like to say, all right, we will be using, instead of using the Zoom platform this evening, we'll be using the Cosumnes Community Service District CCSD streaming service. You can access the live stream link from the district's website or directly through the CCSD's website. Today's meeting is being video recorded and will be available on the district's YouTube channel. The public comment process has shifted to in-person while utilizing the temporary live stream platform. We encourage you to attend the meetings and share your feedback with the board. Your active participation is valued and contributes to the decision-making process. Public comment information. During regular board meetings, the public may make public comments on items on the agenda or items not on the agenda. Requests to make public comment will be accepted for an item up until the board president introduces the item. Generally, members of the public will be given 3 minutes to address the board. If there are 15 or more comments on a specific item, the board will reduce individual comment time to 2 minutes each. If there are 30 or more comments on a specific item, the board will reduce individual comments to 1 minute each. Individuals may not defer their time to another individual speaker to increase their total speaking time. Please be mindful that district students may be watching. You are encouraged to address the board and the public in a respectful manner such that all those observing, from children to adults, are made to feel welcome, safe, and valued. The board shall not permit any disturbance or willful interruption of board meetings. Persistent disruption by an individual or group shall be grounds for the board president to provide a warning and then to terminate the individual's privilege of addressing the board. I'd now like to read the Elk Grove Unified School District Land Acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the Elk Grove Unified School District administrative facilities and schools occupy the unceded territory of the Miwok, the original people of the skies, land, and waters where we work and learn. The Miwok have cared for these lands since time immemorial. They continue to teach their traditional knowledge that comes from and responds to the needs of the land and people who share it. May our daily lives and work teaching, learning, leadership, and community engagement support the evolving vision of the Miwok for their community and these lands. May we strive to acknowledge the past for the betterment of our future generations. May we look to our tribal partners, the Wilton Rancheria, the descendants of the original people of this land, to assist with the successful education of our community. And I would now like to call on Mr. Hoffman to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, and it being the summer months, we are going to head straight to public comment. And Ms. Chaitis Espinosa is going to fill in for Mr. Vargas today.
We're going to, okay, first up, and as I call your name, please feel free to correct me if I mispronounce. First up is Vanessa Buitrago, who will be followed by Dr. Jazz Cower.
Good. All right. My name is Vanessa Buitrago, and I'm the mother of 2 students at Cosumnes Oaks High School, Jordan and Jasmine Agbetter. As a Board of Education, you are tasked with reviewing data and using it to inform action. I'm here to share sobering qualitative data and urge you to address harm caused by adults in your system. Jordan is a rising senior with a 4.3 GPA. He is the second fastest sprinter. He's the second fastest sprinter in the state of California for class of 2025. He served as a student rep for your board this past year. He's the only adolescent serving as an intern for the Dignity Health Organization at Methodist Hospital. He has represented your district in track and basketball and has served the city as a lifeguard and swim instructor. Jasmine is a rising junior with a 4.1 GPA. She is a nationally ranked gymnast who represents Cosumnes Oaks High School in track and varsity cheer. She is currently spending the summer in a highly competitive program for Black girls at Spelman College. She has 3 jobs by choice. She works for CSD as a camp leader, a Sunday school youth leader, and she runs her own business, locking and braiding hair. Despite these facts, collectively, they have been denied grades they earned by 5 different teachers. Furthermore, examples of statements made to them by staff over the course of 3 years include, "You don't deserve support," "You don't deserve an A," "You won't run individual track events because you're not good enough," "You should be satisfied with a D," "You don't need to have such high expectations of yourself," "Other students are more deserving than you," "Your goals and expectations are too high," "I don't need to grade your work," "I will not give you credit for your work." These incidents were reported to administration, and with the exception of the most recent concern involving my daughter's science teacher, an administrator made every effort to resolve the problem. Unfortunately, solving individual issues has done nothing to prevent future situations because the source of the systemic problem remains. I ask for a thorough and serious investigation into the treatment of Black and Latino students at Cosumnes Oaks High School and commitment to appropriate remedies. Teachers feel entitled to single-handedly determine a student's trajectory. They treat students as though they get to decide where a student belongs and what a student deserves. They engage in concerning inequitable grading practices that are informed by implicit bias, and they intentionally create barriers to success. This is not to say that every educator has failed to treat students with dignity, respect, and fairness. I thank Assistant Principal Champion, Principal Cheney, Mr. Olson, Ms. Herron, Mr. Borton, Mr. Garcia, and Mr. Summers for seeing and serving my children. Jordan and Jasmine and every student of color deserves to be cared for and encouraged to be the best version of themselves. Ignorant adult mindsets and inexcusable behavior of specific educators have made this a rare occurrence. I will continue to motivate Jordan and Jasmine to show up as unapologetically Black, unapologetically Latino, and unapologetically ambitious, high-capacity individuals. No educator should make this endeavor more difficult than it already is. This board must do better and be better in the upcoming school year because your Black and Latino young people are not the problem.
Thank you, Ms. Buitrago. Next up, Dr. Jazz Cower, who will be followed by Kirk.
Good evening. My name is Kaur. Last name is Kaur.
Core, thank you.
Good evening, board. I just wanted to come back and speak again on Franklin Elementary. As much as I try to raise awareness, I also like to take time to say thank you. So I want to start off by first saying thank you for the communication I received from the Lozano Smith firm on June 13th and the clarity on the data that I had requested. And just for everybody to know, there are 24 schools that have school counselors. There's 2 slated for August. Franklin is one of them. So I am elated, excited. So thank you. At the same time, you know, there's a lot of time between now and August and a lot can happen. So if that does not follow through, I am requesting the board and the district to please have a contingency plan in place because that site has been without a counselor. And I also recently learned that I am in Area 6, not in Area 4. So Gina, you're excused for not responding to me. But at the same time, being in Area 6 and learning about the data in Area 6, none of those schools none of those elementary schools have a counselor. So it would be great if Franklin could be the first in that area to receive a school counselor. Now, what remains outstanding is the report that I requested on the data that was used to make determinations for school counselors in the 23-24 school year. Your legal requested another extension until July 15th. Well, today is July 16th, and that is 3 extensions. And if you look at Government Code Section 62500, the report I requested is a pre-existing report. That should have been provided to me within 10 days, unless, you know, there's the language around reasonable terms. Well, April 3rd to July 17th, that's more than being reasonable. Why is that report not being provided? Based on some insight, I'm learning that report is actually, now I actually have a name for the report that I believe I am requesting. It's called the Elementary Counselor Priority Matrix. So I know, Nancy, you're going to be stepping down. Mr. Hoffman, you have a legal background. You know what my concerns are. Can you please look into this, and can I please get the report? I just want to be educated. I want to be informed. I want to be a partner. And, you know, in May, my son came and spoke. And, you know, and there's many students like him that need support and services. So please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kaur. Next up will be Kirk, who is followed by Laura Markley.
Hi. At the last meeting, this board passed the Student Bill of Rights resolution, and I have a couple of concerns. One, it was around this time last year, a recently graduated student told this board he was forced to lie about his personal political beliefs in order to ensure he maintained higher grades in some of his classes based on the biases of his teachers. That would violate the Student Bill of Rights resolution that says all students have the right to access fair and equitable education that is free from discrimination. And all students have the right to freedom of speech and expression. Is this something being addressed? Because it's been over a year. Because if a student walks into class in November wearing a Biden-Harris shirt or a red MAGA hat, that should have no bearing on their final grades. And I have heard nothing from this board addressing this concern from one of its former students. No student should have to fear they'll lose a college scholarship because their teacher hates who they voted for. And two, this is something, if you have small kids in the room, you might want to cover their ears, so I'm just giving you the heads up. This resolution states all students have the right to privacy on their school campus and confidentiality in sensitive matters. As it turns out, I have a family member who attends one of the high schools in this district. In a recent discussion with him, I learned that students are having sex on campus, and not just an isolated incident. This is something that happens all the time. It's gotten to a level where students openly joke about doing it and how confident they are in not getting caught. So my question is, where does this supposed right to privacy end? We already know this board wants to hide all sorts of mental health issues and sexual orientation from students, from their parents, and our Governor Patrick Bateman just signed a law to that effect. So I want to know how far this goes. I mean, will you only be informing the parents of kids who are engaging in heterosexual sex in public? That doesn't sound like a very fair and equitable educational environment. So in general, I don't have a problem with Student Bill of Rights. In fact, though this board has not demonstrated that the culture it promotes within these schools is one that treats everyone equally under their policies. That needs to change. Otherwise, Student Bill of Rights are just words on paper. It's what our framers of our Constitution would have called a parchment guarantee. Our students and our parents deserve better than that. And since I have some more time, I'm not sure if I'll be able to stick around for later, but I do want to thank you all for the work you've done on the special ed budget. I had a brief moment to look over it earlier today, and I know with the state budget cuts, it's kind of difficult. So just from one parent's perspective, the main thing I am hoping for, and I said this the last time I spoke when it comes to the special education stuff, as a parent of a kid in need of those services, I just hope that there's more consistency, that I can drop my kid off at school on day one and he has the same teacher and hopefully the same paraeducator throughout the school year, rather than 2 different teachers and 7 different paraeducators that he got last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kirk. Next up, Laura Markley, who is the last speaker.
Hello, my name is Laura Markley. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm new to your community. I moved here during the pandemic and I had a baby who is now 3, just turned. She is part of a rich family culture. Her father's from Mexico. They speak Spanish. My side of the family, we're Jewish and we're American as well. And so we primarily speak English. And I've sort of put out some feelers into the community about interest in dual language immersion schools for us here in Elk Grove. And I've seen huge interest in it in general, and specifically in a Spanish-English dual language immersion school. I've started a petition, just moveon.org. I shared it on some of the mom Facebook groups. And as of today, we have, 153 signatures of parents and community members who would love to have a Spanish-English dual language immersion school. And another parent made me aware that there was another petition before I came on the scene, just for dual language immersion schools in general, not any specific language. And that one was hugely successful. It was started August 4th, 2017 by the Elk Grove Tribune, and it had 6,373 people in support of language immersion schools. I also was able to speak with one of your ELL teachers at a community block party, and I said, what are the thoughts on this? And she said, the board needs to hear from the community that they want this, because when we say it, they say, of course you want this. So I think there is really huge community support for these types of schools, and I would love it if we could move on it before my daughter starts kindergarten, because she's a bright, fantastic young lady who will have citizenship in 2 countries, and I would love to have that for her and for other community members who want the same. So I don't know if I'm allowed to ask for a response, but I guess my last question is, what are the remaining barriers to accomplishing a goal like that, and what can we do about it? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And for clarification, we cannot respond, but thank you. Okay. Is that all of the blue cards?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. I would like to first ask, are there any blue cards for the consent agenda?
No, there are not, Madam President.
I would then like to call for a motion to approve items 1 through 26 on the consent agenda.
I move approval of items 1 to 26 on the consent agenda.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
It's been moved by Mr. Fortuna and seconded by Ms. Titus Espinosa. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda items, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. I know.
Who are you?
Okay, I would then like to ask our bargaining units if anyone would like to address the board this evening. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Diane Campbell. I am president of AFSCME Local 258. I'm responsible for about 1,000 to 1,100 of the classified employees. Later on this evening, on one of the items, the public hearings is going to be our AFSCME's Local 258 Sunshine proposal and then the district's response as well. So I just wanted to say that we are looking forward to starting our negotiations. We already have a few dates on the calendar, so I'm very excited for that. My team is looking forward to that. Understanding, budget constraints, a lot of language cleanup and that kind of stuff too, but we think it's going to be a very productive session once again with the district. So thank you for that and having everything calendared. But also as a reminder, as we're going into negotiations, I had spoken in the past about the need for some full-time employees, the FTE, when it would come to the grounds department, to the warehouse department, school site controllers, twos at the high school level, and now even our safety and security dispatchers. There's some concerns about that, the additional FTE, and especially when you go through the facilities master plan that's coming up. Once again, the Grant Line 208 parcel is going to become a school opening 2026, I believe. So, of course, that staff is already accounted for the secretary, the teachers, the custodian, but sometimes we do forget about those support services, like the warehouse, like the grounds, like the maintenance team. So I just want to put that up there in the forefront once again, especially with the ESSER funds also expiring, and looking once again to see what we can accommodate with that 181 FTE as well. So I just wanted to say thank you. A lot on the plate coming up in the future. It's going to be some really good conversations moving forward, and AFSCME looks forward to the collaboration with the district as well as with the school board. So thank you so much.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have Miss Coates.
All right. Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Hoffman, staff, and the public. Tonight, we are asking that the board conduct the first reading of our Community Facility District 2024-2025 tax report and the ordinance for this year. So this is an annual item whereby the board sets the tax rate for each property in the CFD, the Community Facility District. In this case, for the 2024-2025 tax year, the ordinance includes the adoption of the preliminary annual tax report and the establishment of the CFD1 tax rate. In terms of the tax report, tax revenues are projected to be up roughly by 0.7%. Last year, tax revenues totaled roughly $16,758,676. This year, tax revenues totaled roughly $16,877,017. So in terms of the tax rate, it's $45.84 a year for existing development prior to January 26, 1987, $117.84 per year for units assigned as future developments between January 26, 1987 and June 30th of 1998, $180 for a year for units assigned future development between July 1st, 1998 through June 30th, 2001, and $200 a year for future developments for units after July 1st of 2001. So the ordinance will be back before the board for approval on August 6th and will be delivered to the Sacramento County Auditor's Office no later than August 9th.
Thank you very much. Do any of my board members have questions for Ms. Coates? All right. Thank you. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Next up, we have the Arts Education Roadmap.
I just want to get on record that there are no blue cards for this item.
Thank you. Do we have any blue cards for the Arts Education Roadmap?
There are no blue cards for that item, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Wilbanks and Ms. Avey.
I think I got it. All right. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. I am here tonight with my colleague, Jennifer Wilbanks, Director of Instructional Support, to give you an update on the Arts Education Roadmap. One of the things that we want to point out is arts education supports the learning vision for all students, but arts education is also woven throughout each of the goals that program goals that we have. Sorry, I have a little bit of allergies all the time. Part of our presentation format tonight is to share with you the vision statement that we have for arts education. We'll provide an overview of the actual roadmap and how it was developed. And then we want to give you a sample of the arts education roadmap. It's set up with 4 priority areas, specific goals, and then action steps. And when Ms. Wilbanks comes up to talk to you about that, she'll give you an example of each of them. So we're not going over the entire roadmap tonight. That was a document that was shared with you recently. We'll end the presentation tonight with making the connection to Proposition 28, and then we will take your questions and comments. So with that, if you take a moment to look at our arts education vision statement, give you just a few seconds there to read it over. And what we really want to point out are the 3 words that you see highlighted in the 3 different colors. And just to really emphasize that arts education in Elk Grove is about nurturing creativity, celebrating individuality, and really unleashing the potential of all students. And with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Jennifer Wilbanks.
Good evening. So we want to talk a little bit about the development of the Arts Education Roadmap, and we want to start with a graphic that shows all of the groups that were engaged in this work, and both for the 2021 to 2024 Arts Education Roadmap and our draft of the 24 to 29 Roadmap. All of these groups were participated in that, and so this is just a graphic to illustrate that. We have an arts education planning team that has been working for the last several years with the previous roadmap and the current one that we're presenting today, and that we also have our elementary and secondary VAPA steering committees that have also been engaged in that work. And so I want to share with you a timeline of what's happened over the last year. Starting back last April, we met with our arts education planning team and we celebrated the work we had accomplished and implemented so far in the 2021-2024 Arts Education Roadmap. And being able to look at what we had accomplished and where we wanted to go in its final year, that roadmap was a 3-year roadmap, helped us build a foundation for being able to connect this year in updating that roadmap and presenting the 24 to 29. Then in November, that planning team got together and began that work, looking at the 2021-24 roadmap to determine what might need to be ongoing, and we want to see in this next updated version what things might be new suggestions, ideas. Where do we want to go from here? Where do we envision our students and what we want them to have opportunities and experiences for in the next 5 years? And our arts planning team and our elementary and secondary VAPA steering had several months to provide feedback, suggestions, ideas, ongoing through that time. And then starting in February, our district team then began developing the 24-29 Arts Education Roadmap based on all of that feedback and input from the variety of groups. Then in May, we presented and shared out a draft and gave all of those groups another opportunity to provide feedback and suggestions. And we took that feedback later in May and made some adjustments. And then at the beginning of June, shared out for a final review what the 24-25 Arts Education Roadmap would look like and to get some final feedback. And what we shared with you recently was the version based on all of that feedback. And our hope is then we'll be able to take that starting this month and be able to then share out a final draft of the Arts Education Roadmap. So just a quick overview of that timeline. So the format of the Arts Education Roadmap, which I like to share, is the meat and potatoes of what it is we want our kids to have. And it is set up in 4 priority areas: teaching and learning, leadership and personnel, family and community engagement, facilities and planning, funding, and resources. In each of these priority areas, there are identified goals, and within each of those goals, there are corresponding action steps. And when you're in the roadmap, and you'll share, the public will be able to see some example pages in a moment, and I know you guys have that as well. You'll be able to see a timeline on the left-hand side that shows at what point in the next 5 years do we envision that we're going to begin implementing those things. Some of them are ongoing for all 5 years. Some of them require some things to happen first before we can start. And so that's how the timeline is set up. So I'm going to go first into teaching and learning. So our teaching and learning priority area, which is really about our students and what's happening in our classrooms. How are our teachers prepared? What resources and materials do they have? And what experiences and opportunities are we providing to our students? So an example that I wanted to share of one of our goals is to provide high-quality resources, materials, and standards-aligned curriculum to all arts programs. And one of the action steps connected to that is to pilot elementary arts curriculum for arts, I skipped a word there, to pilot, adopt, and implement high-quality standards-based elementary arts curriculums for arts disciplines. And what's really exciting is we will be piloting in August a visual arts TK6 curriculum with the hope and desire that later this year we will be adopting curriculum in our elementary schools around visual arts. And I think that's really exciting. So that's an example of priority area 1. Priority area 2, which is around leadership and personnel. This is around the people. This is around who do we have in place in front of the students and supporting our arts programs. And one example of a goal here is to ensure that required staff is in place to maximize, support, and expand arts education programs throughout the district. And a corresponding action step is to recruit, hire, and retain additional personnel to provide comprehensive support for arts education. And then I want to go ahead and jump to priority area 3, and this is family and community engagements. How do we engage our community and make sure that they have opportunities to participate and see what's happening, understand what experiences and opportunities their students are having, and be engaged in the arts in our district? And one example of a goal in this area is to expand the comprehensive communication strategy to actively advocate for arts education within the district and a wider community. And our corresponding action step, or one of them for this goal, is to refine our arts events Google Calendar to more easily and effectively disseminate information about arts events across the district. This is an example of an action step that we had in our previous 2021-2024 Arts Education Roadmap, where now we want to take what we started and make sure or ensure that we are truly providing opportunities for our community to know what's happening around the arts on all of our campuses. And so we want to expand what we've already done and do a better job of making sure that we are getting all of that communicated out. And then our last priority area, facility and planning, funding and resources. This is about finding ways to make sure that what our programs need are in place, that we have infrastructure that we have in place, that our spaces have what they need. An example goal for this particular priority area is to maintain, maximize, and allocate funds to support and sustain pre-K-12 arts education. And an action step for this is to utilize one-time allocations to devote funding for addressing specific site needs in arts education. For example, purchasing instruments, maintaining instruments, theater repairs, dance flooring, multipurpose rooms, sound systems, stage curtains, our kilns in our visual arts classroom, updating media and technology, all of the things that we are often looking at that need to be updated or repaired. And specifically in the plan, we want to conduct a needs assessment, and we conducted one in 2021. So we're going to update that. We're going to be reaching out to our sites, and we're going to be determining what are those needs. Our sites, they keep track of and know what the individual needs are for their programs, and they can track what their inventory is, what materials, supplies, and so we want to be reaching out and making sure that we have an updated version of that so that we're able to support as we move forward. And again, this one was a specific to one-time allocation funding. So these 4 priority areas, again, I just shared a quick sampling of what some of the goals are, a related action step, and just a final comment about the priority areas is to share that just as our California Arts Standards serve as guideposts for teachers, our roadmap provides guideposts for our sites and district leadership, and it gives direction and guidance for implementing the action steps so that we can reach all of our identified goals by 2029. Moving forward then, I want to share it before we get to our closing statements, our Prop 28 connection. And I think what's actually very exciting, coincidentally, Prop 28 came about at a time that we were already planning to update our arts education roadmap. And so the beauty of that is we were able to embed Prop 28 language and some of the Prop 28 pieces so that we can help fund and we can utilize funds to help leverage and enhance some of the needs that we have identified in our arts education roadmap. Our Prop 28 funding that we will receive is an annual supplemental funding, and our sites are currently developing their site expenditure plans, and they are aligning their plans to our arts education roadmap. What I'd like to end with today is a little bit of a personal story. So the picture that you have up here is our why, the impact the arts have. And people who know me know that sometimes I struggle a little, but I promise I will pull it together. This is Justin. And Justin is going to be a junior at Monterey Trail High School. And Justin actually was a student at Roy Herberger Elementary when I was the principal there. And he started on violin in our violin program. And then he continued violin, but took up trombone in our band program at Herberger. And this is an example of a student who thrived with the arts. Having that early experience and opportunity has helped guide him and helped him continue his trajectory as he went through middle school and high school, and has helped him be the student that he is today, and I know the gentleman that he will become as he moves on in life. And so I wanted to end kind of grounding what we do and why we do it, because it's for our students, and that's who we serve. So I appreciate you listening to that. Just to let you know, on July 22nd, a final draft of the Arts Education Roadmap will be available on our district website, and this will be reflecting all of the work that happened in the last year and reflecting any feedback that we received from the board today. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll move to questions or comments.
Thank you very much. I would like to start over here with Mr. Perez. Do you have any questions or comments?
Testing. All right. Page 12. Facility planning, funding, and resources. I looked through everything with a equity lens, as everybody's aware of. And I'm very concerned regarding item number 4 on this page, which is facilities and planning, funding, and resources. That report that you're going to have, is it going to be broken down by schools or regions of what some schools have and don't have or need?
You're talking about the comprehensive needs assessment?
Yes.
Yes, we will be able to identify what is needed at each of the school sites.
Because my experience, some schools and communities don't express themselves or understand that process, that this particular committee that you're participating at the local site is there to voice their opinions and engage in the process. So I'm very concerned because I know for a fact that Florin, what does it have? How big is that theater there? Is it the smallest one in our district?
No, it's not.
Or second, it's pretty small regardless, right? And we need to, a facility, instead of, what I would like to see is a multi-purpose room hall that could be interchangeable according to the curriculum or the needs of the community of the arts and what's it? Arts and music. And I was wondering why you didn't include dance within that framework also. So does dance come under art?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so but
all of the disciplines are all woven into the Arts Education Roadmap. There's 5 disciplines.
Okay, and which are?
Those disciplines are dance, theater, music, media arts, and visual arts.
Okay, then we need to express that on paper. So our community and our fellow staff here or board members know that and promote that, because that I really enjoyed it as a youth. and I'm very proud of your son, because I know how people get involved in music and explode, and and it helps ADA coming to school every day. They look forward to that, and so I would like to see that within that report. And again, another issue I have within this page 12. Rudder had a pool one time, and we no longer have a pool at that facility.
Okay,
And
this is about the arts and music.
the facility, but I'm
no,
thinking,
no.
I know what you're saying. I know
That
what-
is for a different discussion. This
yes,
is
but
about
it's
the
a
arts and
facility
music.
thing. But I was wondering, because aqua dancing is an art, it's a performance. So we lost that in our area. So I'm always going to be promoting, we'll get that pool back in that geographical area, regardless if it's competitive swimming, but a pool is, I could see that at one time, I heard there was aqua performances. Students were performing from the high school, doing the underwater dancing, at that. So that is art that we lost. So, we lost not only that particular art form, but also, number one, we cannot do that anymore as a result of losing a facility, a swimming pool. So I am, always going to bring that up between this board, because some of our board members don't know the history of what happened. So that's that. So I'm looking forward to see that within our facility plan. Page 13, teaching and learning. Again, on that page, dance and cultural. Did you say anything about the cultural dancing or cultural, any type of linguistic learning of foreign language or music in this particular report?
So what you're seeing right now in this presentation is just a snippet of what's in the roadmap.
Okay, but I'm concerned about that.
Which is attached for your review.
Yes, I'm concerned about that because, this school district, this California, is a multicultural linguistic community, and we need to promote those type of events of art. Because, and when I was teaching, I saw that. It's very productive within our student body. So that's what I'm concerned about also within that report, that the cultural linguistic dance, music, singing should be included, that type of language. 14, leadership and personnel. Will these be full-time employees or volunteer contracted employees?
So this priority area is about ensuring that we do have the personnel and looking at what we currently have, what all of our FTE allocations are, where the needs might be. I'm not sure if perhaps you're referring a little bit to Prop 28. That's
that's going to be part of it.
Yeah, it's going to be part of it, correct? But it's separate. So this is about ensuring that if there are needs, so that we to have and make sure that we've got full-time people in place, that we're working on how to accomplish that and what that might look like.
Well, I bring this out because just recently, I know somebody within another district. He was very proud that he just received a job maintaining a school district equipment, musical equipment, and that school district never had one. And I'm wondering, do we have one? Who maintains or do we contract that out? So that's the issue, that instead of contracting now, we should have internal people working on that type of work internally. Like I said before, I do not support outsourcing. Trade jobs within Elk Grove. And 15, family and community engagement. I'm glad you brought that up. We need to be stronger and put more funding within that community, because it's going to take funding, not just words on paper, but actual funding. Again, page 16, again, facility planning, funding, resources box. Again, I support a multi-purpose room or a hall versus an actual theater. Yeah, I mean, theater is almost, doesn't have to be in a theater, right? So 18, Prop 28, I'm very good supportive of that particular proposition. And how can we as board members help promote Prop 28? Is there, and the community? I like to see some type of a website, how, once you finish your final draft, and how can the community support Prop 28 as a community? I'd like to see that done. Thank you. Very good.
Mr. Fortuna.
Thank you. I think everyone can see going through the entire document itself that there's a lot of work that's been done by a lot of people. Nancy and I were the board representatives on the executive committee, first committee, and then the second committee in review and development. And the current draft as it stands does a thorough job of going through each of the component areas that are important in advancing what many of us have wanted for many, many years. A number of them sitting in the back row back there. I have only 2 questions, and they are: the $18 million that this board voted on several months ago from the block grant and the Proposition 28 site plans have both been on hold pending the approval of the roadmap. Presuming we are going to approve that roadmap tonight, my question is, what happens tomorrow morning with respect to the release of those monies and the implementation of the plans? Because many, many sites are wanting to have people on board when the school year starts and the clock is ticking.
Yes. So sites have been in development, and many plans have already been shared. And so those funds are going to be available for the sites, and in many cases, because it will be challenging to find teachers across the whole state for all of our districts, we are seeing some increases in FTE at some of our sites with existing personnel that they have. Those will be able to be implemented very quickly into this next school year. So that's going to be immediate. We're going to move forward, and as sites are submitting their plans and they get approvals, their funds are going to be available. So that will be right away. And with the comprehensive needs assessment and putting together recommendations to bring back to the board, we are working on that so that we can bring that to the board by late August, early September, and be able to move forward on that.
Okay, now I have 2 more questions. Is it your intent to give the green light to all the Proposition 28 plans you've already reviewed? If I have somebody I need to hire and I've already identified them and you already have my plan and this board approves the plan tonight, you're going to call me up tomorrow morning and tell me go?
So the plans that principals are working on right now are based on the allocation that was provided for 23-24, where we already had an approved roadmap that we were working off of. The allocation actually for 24-25, I think what we talked about the other day, should be released at any time from the state. So every site in our district already has a source of funds that they've been building that plan on. So in terms of saying yes and moving ahead, there's already portions of all the plans that have been submitted that have partial approval.
But
So
people are
I think the
waiting for the
question
green
is
light
yes.
for personnel.
I think the question to that is yes. We're working through the process together with HR and how we do FTE, full-time employment or part-time employment, to be able to have a process where we are also holding ourselves accountable to keep track of the allocations and what portion of a full-time position or a part-time position a site can actually afford. So I think in the long run, yes, there are some sites that there are immediate movement on, and there are some sites that we're going to have to do some more work on. That's probably more around the elementary sites, just because of how the state has allocated the funding.
And just as a quick piece, This will be in the initial implementation easier to do at the secondary sites than the elementary sites because in many cases we have staff here already and we can expand the number of sections that they teach so that there's a little bit of a combination of it, but
Yeah, I understand that, and I should have specified that I was concerned in particular about secondary. Again, it's almost time to open the doors. Did I hear you correctly with respect to the $18 million? That you are going to put plans together once you have needs assessment and other information and bring that to the board?
Yes, we'll bring a recommendation to the recommendations to the board.
Okay, why? The board approved the $18 million.
The board approved the 18 million, but in the end, when the actual expenditures get done, the board has to approve those as well. So we approved the overall dollars to be dedicated to it, but the vendors we use, what we actually purchased, those things all end up coming through the board. Just like anything else we purchase.
I understand that piece, but there's not a difference between general fund money allocated to the school sites and this block grant money that'll be allocated to the school sites, in as much as once the money is allocated out to the school site, it becomes the principal's responsibility and that of our, sorry, Amari, very cumbersome, lengthy, and unnecessary budget process. And those decisions are made. What comes to the board is when we are accepting contracts. So I guess it's going to be a mix of items that'll have to come here and items that people can move forward on. Here's the bottom line.
Even things that the sites purchase to the general fund, that still comes through the board. I mean, it comes to, it's just not in a presentation.
I know. I don't even want to go into that discussion because, I totally disagree on it. Again, my big concern is that sites have identified a lot of what they need to have, and you know that. We weren't able to access any of the $18 million until the plan was approved. And I guess what I need to hear is starting tomorrow morning, you're going to open the doors.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Chaitis Espinosa?
Thank you, Madam President. I have a few things that I want to call out and make some recognitions as well. So first off, the roadmap is a thoughtful product built on extensive and very detailed work by the team. So thank you to everyone who did that heavy lift. The prior roadmap made some real gains. It was a true joy in April of last year to be able to see the result of all of that. And this one is a recognition and continuing to embrace arts education as a core of our instructional program, not a nice to have. And I'll, as quickly as possible, just call out some highlights, some of which Ms. Wilbanks also mentioned. So some of the things that I think we can be most proud of is bringing that TK6 visual arts curriculum, bringing instruction, formal instruction, consistently to the primary grades is very nice. I, of course, appreciate calling out how essential facilities are to implementing all of this. You can't or shouldn't maybe hold a dance class on the kind of floor, that building code requires for a classroom. Pottery requires a specialized facility as well, just as we had to do when the next generation science standards came out, right? All of a sudden they required more hands-on activity, more lab work. All of those things require something specific and different from our facilities, and all of that costs money and requires space. So I really appreciate the parity with which, that we're moving towards. And for those who saw the attached draft, cultural responsiveness is woven throughout, and it's something I really appreciate, that consistent recognition of being culturally responsive and involving our community partners. Very much appreciated. Also appreciate the fact that the development of the comprehensive needs assessment is underway. I know we're all really interested in being able to be very specific to students and the parents about things like inventories of instruments and hopefully having a schedule of repair and replacements similar to what we do on the IT side. Very encouraged to hear that the next steps are underway, determining the cost, allocating the resources. I know we're all eager to understand the full timeline of implementation. And the last thing I want to mention, just because I like to manage expectations, is one thing Ms. Wilbanks mentioned, possible staffing challenges. So everybody in the state is implementing this at the same time. Everybody may not have spent as much of their block grant as we did on arts, but everybody is getting the Prop 28 funds, which require hiring. So when we're all doing that at the same time, it's going to be a little bit of a crunch. So just, I want to flag that for folks that that could be something that delays our implementation a little bit. But very thankful for the work, very excited to watch it move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask our student board member, Ms. Celine Cheen, if you have any questions.
No questions.
Ms. Albiani?
Thank you very much. This is exciting. Our first roadmap was exciting, and I think the format of this is so digestible and trackable and accountable. It's excellent. So I really appreciated that. I love the dates on the side, the way it was set up. So I think we are all very interested in needs assessment. We often talk about inequities across the district. It's one of our largest challenges, and we want to make sure that everybody starts at a place that gives them what they need and is fair. So that's very important to all of us. It's been mentioned by everybody. I just wanted to include that. Some keywords I liked: effectively disseminate the information. I think we're doing a much better job this year telling about our excellent schools. The stories every week are outstanding. And to add in arts to that, there's just some really cool stuff that's happening. And for those schools to know how to send that information in so we can highlight those students and their good work it's going to be a nice layer to add to that. So I appreciate that. Ensure equitable access to programs for every student. I taught in a Title I, did my best, but pulling pictures out of a box, I mean, it was tough. It was really tough. And trying to do it for my whole grade level to go with my things. And I've always talked about there's silos of excellence in our district, and we have schools that are doing things just amazing stuff, and everybody's doing amazing stuff, but where are we sharing it? Where do we gather it? And I just think that your office is now providing us with such an asset to bring that together and be able to share that with people. So I really appreciate that. It's obvious that's one of the goals of this, and it's really exciting to me. I don't see this as, I'm not sure, it's a discussion item tonight. The whole money letting go stuff, but people do need to plan. And so I'm not sure what the timeline is. That there seems to be kind of some contradictory ideas there for me. But as soon as we can let people know what they have and they can make their plans, it'll be great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I think my colleagues asked most of my questions. I do want to appreciate the process in which it's developed. I know that this is a continuation, but I think that it's really important that when we're making these large-scale decisions and plans, that we're including members of the community, that we're including the students, the schools, and so all those that were included in this process is really important. So I appreciate commitment to that process. And again, just anticipating being able to meet the needs, being able to see what the needs are, and then figuring out how we're going to address those needs. I'm excited to be able to do that. So, oh yes, Ms. Albiani.
I just wanted to thank Ms. Charis Espinoza and Mr. Fortuna. I know you spent a lot of time on this, and I just want to recognize that that was outside of this time, and as obvious by the amount of meetings and the time it took, it was a big commitment. We appreciate your work.
I forgot to ask one question. You have your team sitting back there. Are they? And you'd like to introduce them because they've been a part of all this. But given how voluminous the plan is and how complex it is, are they going to have certain responsibilities? I know that generally they're all responsible, but are they going to have specific responsibilities for the various components within the plan?
There'll be work that they are doing that's embedded in these action steps. There'll be work that the team is looking at, and with all the action steps, there's going to be a management tool that is created to show, okay, here's what we're trying to accomplish, here's the things we'll need, and to that extent, yes, they're going to be accomplishing some of those steps and implementing some of these things. But we'll be tapping the shoulder of many others as well, our site leaders, our teachers, that are on campuses, and I really see many people involved, but absolutely the arts curriculum specialists will have their hand in supporting this work so that we are truly implementing, and coming to fruition what we've outlined.
And I would expect nothing less, but just like you were named as director because it was important to share the responsibility for VAPA on an individual. Are various aspects going to be pinned on each of them, or they'll just all work together?
I think that depends, but a lot of the work, they'll work together, but they all come with different strengths and different skills. Yeah. So we'll tap into, like we would in any setting of staff, to identify and tap into an area that somebody might be really well equipped to handle and to tackle.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, I would really appreciate it if everyone got to know who they are.
Absolutely. So what we have, Melissa Bramham. Stand up. Mike Manganon. Ron Ochoa. And the fourth member of the team, Leah Newton, who's not here and wasn't able to be here this evening.
Okay. Well, I look forward to that team quadrupling.
Yeah. Yes. So it's an exciting time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, on to our public hearing and action items. I'd like to call Ms. Bell up for our adjustment to school facility fees and developer fees. How are you?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. It's good to be here again. This is a follow-up to our meeting last week. This is the second meeting that we hear on our developer fees. This is the one where we talk about levying school development impact fees. We did a school facilities needs analysis, and it justifies level 2 fees of $7.17 for residential, and our level 1 fees would be $5.17. If the state no longer has funds, our level 3 fees would be $14.34. So there is a public comment period that we need to have an open hearing on this evening, and if that goes well, then we can proceed and go ahead and adopt the fees as stated in the resolutions.
Thank you very much. I would now like to open this hearing and call on Ms. Charis Espinoza. Do we have any blue cards for this item?
We have no blue cards for this item, Madam President.
I would then like to close public hearing, and I would like to call for a motion to adopt the increase in school facility fees and resolution number 2, adopting the alternative school facility fees.
So move, Madam Chair.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Chavez Espinosa, seconded by Mr. Fortuna. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Riley, consideration and public notice of Elk Grove Unified School District's initial proposal to AFSCME Local 258 regarding collective bargaining for the 2024-25 school year.
Thank you. Good evening, President Jamerson, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. Pursuant to Government Code Section 3547, the following are stipulated for negotiations between a bargaining unit and the district. One, the district's initial proposal is officially presented at a public meeting of the governing board for public notice, and two, a public hearing is conducted to receive public input regarding the district's initial proposal. EGUSD's initial proposal is attached. The Board of Education is asked to open a public hearing and receive comments on Elk Grove Unified School District's initial proposal to the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, otherwise known as AFSCME, Local 258, for the 2024-2025 collective bargaining, and to close the public hearing after listening to comments, and after closing such public hearing, take action to accept EGUSD's initial proposal.
Thank you. I would now like to open the public hearing, and I would like to ask Ms. Chavez Espinosa if there are any blue cards related to this item.
We do not have any blue cards on that item, Madam President.
Thank you very much. I would then like to close public hearing and call for a motion to accept the district's proposal to AFSCME regarding collective bargaining for the 2024-25 school year.
So moved.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
It's been moved by Ms. Albiani and seconded by Ms. Chavez Espinosa. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then I will now let you speak to item number 3.
Thank you. Also pursuant to Government Code Section 3547, the following process is required for negotiations between a bargaining unit and the district. AFSCME's union initial proposal is officially presented at a public meeting of the governing board for public notice, and two, a public hearing is conducted to receive public input regarding the union's initial proposal. AFSCME's initial proposal is attached. It's recommended that after the closure of the public hearing, the board take action to officially receive AFSCME's initial proposal. The board is asked to, one, open a public hearing and receive comments on AFSCME's Local 258's initial sunshine proposal to the Elk Grove Unified School District for the 2024-2025 collective bargaining, and at the close of the public hearing and listening to the comments, to receive the proposal.
I would now like to open the public hearing. Ms. Chavez Espinosa, do we have any blue cards on this item?
We have one blue card on this item, Madam President, Mr. Jeremiah Miller.
All right. Good evening, President Jamerson, school board members, Mr. Hoffman, Ms. Avalos, and everybody else here, because I don't know why we stopped there. But yeah, so first off, I just want to say it's great to see funds coming in for VAPA. I think we're all excited about that. I want to look more into the roadmap, so that's really cool. But my point here today is to say this. Over the last couple of years, under the guidance, leadership, and direction of this current Board of Supervisors, we have collectively taken positive strides to fill a vast amount of vacant positions that we have had in Elk Grove Unified School District. The driving factor to filling these vacancies has been working on improving the employee compensation and making that an additional focus, along with serving our students to the highest degree. Some great steps forward have been made. However, in light of recent inflation, consumer price index is up 3.4 to 3.7%, unfortunately. Medical premiums, every single one of our packages went up by double digits last year, I believe, percentage-wise. And other factors, there's still work to be done. We know that there are many priorities for this board to take into consideration. We also believe that this Board of Supervisors understands that its employees are the engine that really drives this whole machine and gets our students the education that they need. And we also believe that the district will move forward and continue to focus on and prioritize the wellness and compensation of its employees so that we can continue to recruit, hire, and retain, as we say, the best and brightest employees that we can in the area. We look forward to continuing to do this work with you all, with the district's negotiations team, and we look forward to these upcoming negotiations. So thank you very much and have a great evening.
Thank you. I would now like to close this public hearing and call for a motion to officially receive AFSCME's initial sunshine proposal to the district.
So moved, Madam Chair.
It's been moved by Ms. Chavez Espinosa, seconded by Ms. Albiani. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up, Ms. Regali. We have Elk Grove Unified School District's annual service delivery budget plan for special education.
Good evening. Thank you, President or Chairperson Jamerson, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. The Elk Grove Unified School District's special education local planning area is required annually to develop and revise an annual service budget delivery plan as an additional component of the approved local plan. The annual service delivery and budget plan includes a description of all of the special education services provided by our SELPA, the nature of those services, and the physical location of the services. The annual service delivery and budget plan also identifies expected expenditures for all items required by the SELPA's service delivery plan. A public hearing and discussion regarding this topic was conducted a few weeks ago, June 25th. The Board of Education is now requested to approve the 24-25 plans as submitted.
Thank you very much. Do we have any blue cards for this item?
We have no blue cards for this item, Madam President.
I would then like to call for a motion to approve the 2024-25 Elk Grove Unified School District annual service delivery budget plan for special education. Yes.
How much is the plan working with a facility master plan for future growth of our special ed community?
Good question. We meet regularly with our facilities and with our school site, secondary and elementary education, so we're aware of where the needs are and taking into consideration that students are served closest to their home school or in their home school.
Well, I foresee a bigger need within Latino, non-English, and also the non-English students within the communities. And are we planning for that through our facility master plan?
We are. We definitely consider all students in their primary language and addressing the duly identified students who their primary language is not English and who also are a student with a disability.
Thank you.
I just want to bring up an item that I've brought up consistently over time because I think it's worth recognition that Elk Grove Unified School District takes an extreme responsibility to serve special education students, regardless of what the state and the federal government do, both of which severely underfund special education. Elk Grove School District is spending in excess of $135 million of general fund money to support the services that the children need, money that both the state and the federal government have promised since the beginning in 94-142 and have never come through with those responsibilities and obligation. We're not the only district that's been put behind the 8 ball to come up with those monies, but Elk Grove has not backed away from its responsibility on the basis of dollars available, and I think that everyone needs to know that.
Thank you. It doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you. I appreciate the school board support of the supporting our teachers who are also serving special ed students.
Thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues? Okay, then I would now like to call for a motion to adopt the Elk Grove Unified School District Annual Service Delivery Budget Plan for Special Education.
Yeah, I so move approval of the plan.
Moved by Mr. Fortuna, seconded by Mr. Perez. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Coates.
All right. Good evening again. We are really excited. I just have got to give full disclosure. It will not be as smoothly navigated as the arts plan. That's impressive because that's a really comprehensive document, and this one is as well. I'm sure everyone's read all 544 pages, front and back twice, or several times. Thank you for all the time that you've spent on it. This has been Leona, who will come up here soon and shortly. She'll say it's a 7.5 months process, but really for us, it's been about a year. So a year of really intentional work to give us kind of a guideline of the next 10 years for facilities and planning. And so we're really proud of what we have. We've been appreciative of the feedback from lots of different partners along the way. And so without further ado, this is the comprehensive facility master plan. We will ask for approval this evening for this, and I'll bring up Sue Bell, who was up earlier. She is our Chief Facilities Officer, really leading the team, and also Leona Cottrell from PBK, the architecture firm. We've seen both of them up. We'll actually sit up here because there are some supporting documents, and we will go ahead and fire away.
Good evening, all. So I am very happy to get started. And as Kristen mentioned, for us, it was a 7.5 month process. So I'm very happy to be here to present the results of all that work. Next slide. Oh, yes, I do that. Okay. Sorry, trying to make it as seamless as possible. As Kristen already introduced us, I'll just reintroduce myself. You've seen me and one of my other colleagues, Josh Jackson, presenting at different times the progress that we've made throughout this process. And we undertook this process with the district to develop a master plan that would help you manage and optimize the district's physical assets, the buildings and the sites, strategically to align them with the current and future educational program and needs, and provide a clear roadmap for development, maintenance, and modernization of your school facilities for the next 10 years. I have a different slide presentation. So I want to walk through the facility master plan with you. The FMP, or facility master plan, I'll say FMP most of the evening. The FMP is organized into 3 volumes. The first is the facility master plan. And when I say volumes, they're electronic volumes that you'll see on your website coming soon. But the first is the facility master plan. The second is the appendices, and we'll go through all of these sections. And then the third is the facility conditions assessment data. And I'll talk about that more as we go along. It is, you know, an incredible amount of information, and in one PDF, even on a network, would be unwieldy. So we broke it into those 3 components. And now, can I switch? Is it hard to switch back and forth? This is solely for the PowerPoint. Okay, got it. So the facility master plan, as I said, is the first of the documents, and I won't go through the entire thing, but I did want to point out that the electronic version has bookmarks for each of the chapters that will link you to that chapter, so you don't have to scroll through the whole thing. You can click on, you know, for instance, and it will take you to that section. And you have to scroll to get back. So the second section is the the appendices. And the appendices we'll go through in a little bit, but again, the table of contents is there. What's grayed out is in the previous volume, I'll call it. And when you get to the area of this volume, it's in bold. So you can distinguish what's in the volume you're looking at. And then the third section. Oh my goodness. Third section is the facility conditions assessment information, which I apologize, it's very small. I think I closed it. Okay, so going through the sections, I'll just have my table of contents open near me. The first is the preface. It's the message from the superintendent. And the second, the executive summary. If one wants to get the flavor of the entire document, this is the place to go. It outlines and talks about each of the separate sections, starting with the process and the input that we've gotten through the process, and then each section individually talked about the mission and vision, facility conditions. It goes through the entire document. So, yes. Thank you. Okay. Yes, this is easier. So again, the executive summary goes through each of the components. I was going to touch on the process earlier in a slide that didn't appear to be there, so I can talk about it now. So every time we've presented to the board, we've presented the steps of this process and where we were in it. So in a nutshell, we kicked off with the district in November of last year. Immediately with the help of the facilities group, we formed a facilities master plan committee, and we then met regularly with the committee to share our progress and to solve any logistical issues that we've had along the way. We gathered data, we gathered floor plans on all the existing school sites to prepare us for the facility conditions assessments. We had teams of architects and engineers reviewing everything from floor to windows to doors to plumbing fixtures, you name it, to get an assessment of each building on each campus. We were also simultaneously sharing progress with the community through community engagement meetings, getting input and feedback from the community and the school sites through principal and staff surveys, through community surveys, student leadership meetings, other types of engagement meetings with curriculum leaders and department heads. And while all of this was happening, the district was having studies done like the planned area development and enrollment and capacity studies, which all integrated into the development of this facility master plan. We've had a draft of the FMP out for comment and have been revising it, integrating all of that feedback, and that leads to this presentation today. Gonna be wrong. That's what I'm doing. Here we go. Okay, and then go back to the sections. Section 2 was the blanking. Executive summary. And then 3, we go into mission and vision. This talks about the district's learning vision. It talks about the educational specifications that were adopted in 2019 that really set the pace for the standards going forward. They were the sort of the benchmark from which we looked at educational adequacy in all the spaces. And we looked at the guiding principles for the facility master plan and the factors that informed the development of this facility master plan in Elk Grove. Things like the attendance boundaries were discussed. It talks about the value of the neighborhood schools and how population growth can stress those abilities to provide neighborhood schools. The district model of co-located middle and high schools, the CTE program, outdoor learning and play, and all of the guiding principles that are found in the educational specifications. That is more of those factors that influenced the FMP. Section 4 is Section 5, enrollment and capacity. With this, the data is in the appendices, but this chapter talks about how basically California districts are generally in decline, but Elk Grove is pretty much holding steady. The Rancho Cordova region and South Elk Grove region are growing, and these are areas that Elk Grove Facilities Group is keeping an eye on. Sure.
I just want to add to the educational program here. This is where some of the trends actually start to come out. So I'd be remiss if we didn't highlight So again, looking at the education specifications, as Leona had mentioned, that were approved back in 2019 through a pretty robust process. The areas of program focus that were really kind of trending in the input, both from sites, community, all of the feedback that we had, you can see in those areas of educational program focus. And so we wanted those to be in particularly highlighted. So special education, early learning, transitional kindergarten and kindergarten, safety and security, educational technology, overcrowding, of course, based on the information that Leona had just brought out, and then school support facilities. And then the box up above, the ongoing facilities improvement, these are some of the trends that we noticed in no order of importance, but they were all heavily reported by the input: restrooms, parking lot, drop-off and pickup areas, accessible playgrounds, visual and performing arts, as we had this great presentation before, and technology. And so this is where we see those ed specs start to merge together with the program focus and the areas of need. There have been questions throughout the evening, so I wanted to make sure we came back and grounded on that. And back to enrollment.
And those really did inform all of the plans that you see at the end of this facility master plan. Enrollment, the other thing I wanted to point out, within this chapter, it talks about the trends in terms of in 5-year growth in elementary schools versus the current enrollment, 5-year enrollment, and then the 10-year projected enrollment for middle, high, and elementary schools. And there is clear growth predicted in elementary schools. All of that study is in the appendices of the document. Engagement and input, we had a very robust engagement process. This is chapter 6 or section 6 of the document. There were a number of community engagement meetings held at high schools and one at a middle school. We surveyed in general, so anyone could take the survey. It was on the website. It was promoted at every meeting, sent out in newsletters, and that survey had over just about 5,000. It was 4,700 and some resulting surveys coming out of that. We had, as I mentioned, curriculum director meetings. We had student leadership meetings to get feedback. We used a couple different mechanisms to get that feedback, poll everywhere. So it was a live process where questions were asked and answers were coming up on the screen so that you had the immediate feedback. All of that was recorded. All of that feedback from surveys, from the polling, are all documented in the appendices. And some of the things that came out of that, again, they're kind of not in a particular order here. Overcrowding, some of the priorities were restrooms and improvement to classroom spaces, balancing safety. There were some safety concerns. There were, concerns about reducing the use of portables.
A tiny bit, that last slide. The 4 boxes shown below where we've got north, southern, eastern, and western, we did hold stakeholder meetings in regions of the district according to those directional points. And those are the primary things that came from those meetings. North was up in the, that was the Rancho Cordova region, so, an area up in the northern part of the district. Pardon? Yeah, well, that was the eastern one? That was the eastern one.
It could have been the one that we had at Valley High School.
What we tried to do is we tried to hold meetings throughout the district so that people in all areas could attend one that was as close to their home as possible. We didn't expect people from the northeast, farthest corner of the district to come to a meeting, say, at Cosumnes Oaks. So we, off the top of my head right now, I can't say the north meeting was at this school or. Mm-hmm. And it may be, and if you want to see the data that is related to those meetings, that's shown in the appendices. So you can go back into the appendices and you'll see the comments that were derived from each of those meetings. And it will be labeled similarly. And it will tell you where the school meeting was.
And this is a little bit on the student engagement and feedback. They were asked, what is working and what's not, and their responses were really positive in terms of the libraries and CTE. They're excited about. They like when they have flexible seating, and they like the science labs. Generally, what isn't, restrooms come up all over. And a wish list, which may not be a surprise to a lot of people, wishing for a pool and a new theater. The facility conditions and master plans, the process we went through, I touched on a little bit. With the conditions assessments walks, and we had troops of architects, engineers going to every site, going up on the roof, looking at the mechanical equipment, looking at the exterior envelope of the building, which is the walls, the windows, the doors, what keeps the rain out or the air conditioning in, and gathering all this data, downloading it to a point source where it could be shared, but it also could be combined, and all of that, line by line, all of that information in great detail is in that third section of the facility master plan, the facility conditions assessment. And those line items, which I can show you, and I will, they could have things as simple as damaged ceiling tile. So all of that together is information that can form into a project like a modernization project. So that information as raw data is maybe interesting to the maintenance department, but for the facility master plan, it really is the ingredients of those project plans. And no. I would like to talk about the organization of those facility conditions assessment plans that are in the facility master plan, and I think this is a good place to start it. Let me switch, sorry. The project plans are organized by high school region first, and then when you go to each section for each high school region of the 9 high school regions, you'll see a list on the front page of the high school region, the high school, and then the middle school that feeds it, and then the elementary schools beneath it. So in each of those sections, it's the same order each time. Thank you. Okay.
So what Leona was describing is that the way that we've organized the facility master plan with each of the site pages is by high school region. So by alpha, by high school region, because there are feeder schools, We start with the high school and the middle school, and then we get all of the elementaries by alpha. And so that's what you'd see if you looked at the entire document. That's what you can see how it's organized and described. We can run through some slides in a minute, but because of how cumbersome it is to change, let's go ahead and talk about all of the information that we have solicited over the last 7.5 months. If we could go to the last slide. The last slide in the presentation.
It's this.
Oh,
it's costs.
Okay. Yes, it is the cost. So when we take a look at the feedback, the priorities that come up with all of the sites, we also go through all of our support sites, our district office, our maintenance and grounds, the transportation department. We've done a lot of work already on our central kitchen, but the team of architects that Leona has described have really gone through everything. And then what you're looking at here, albeit a little small, but you can blow it up in the PDF version, by high school region, you have the total cost for each of the priorities. And so we'll just take a look at the total dollar amount. It's at the far right all the way down. We're looking at the anticipated needs in the district over the next 10 years for all of our facilities, coming in just under $2 billion. And so that really is, it's both the schools that need the modernization and need upgraded facilities, but we also have the growth that we're watching. You saw those hot spots both in the Rancho area and in the south, and so it really is factoring new schools and growth in that. So we cannot go through all 544 pages, but we have shown that we have it available. So if there are specific questions, we're all here to answer any of those. Sue, would you add anything? All right, so with that, we'll take questions.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Careful what you ask for. I will. You've already seen. I warned you before we started.
Ms. Chaitis Espinosa, do we have any blue cards on this item?
There are 3 blue cards on this item, Madam President. First up, and please correct me if I misread your name, is Jeffrey Boom, who will be followed by Joseph Rastani.
Good evening. I'll actually take blame for that. It's Edom, Jeffrey Edom, but that's my bad handwriting. I'm here to address a couple of things, and we talk about taking community input into account on all of these things. I haven't been through the master plan with a fine-tooth comb. I don't think, judging from what I'm seeing in the presentation, many of us have. What I do know is that 4 in the West region, what was identified by the community in 4 of those meetings as a need was stadiums. And as a band director, I'm an unusual person. I would have been up here for the VAPA thing, you would think, but no. I'm here to talk about the fact that on a Friday, my afternoon starts at 2:45 when school is out, loading all of our equipment onto 3 trailers with my students, getting parents to move those trailers to a stadium, then busing in shuttles in shifts, over 3 shifts starting at 4:30, my band to the site. The last 3 years, well, last 2 years, because 3 years ago was the pandemic, but the last 2 years, we have had no buses to bring us back from the site at the end, so parents have had to pick them up at the stadium at the end of the night. We're busing all our equipment over there, and this doesn't even take into account the cheer, all the other ancillary people that have to deal with football games that aren't football players, that aren't admin, that aren't fans. We're expected to be there, but my night usually winds down about 11:30 or midnight on a Friday night because I'm getting everything back. We still have to load stuff into a trailer after the game, into trailers, bring it back to the site, drop everything off. The inequity of not having these facilities. We think about this, it's 5 football games, but these stadiums get used on other sites all the time for all kinds of events that don't have anything to do with football. Not to mention the fact that we have JV football, varsity football, freshman football, flag football now, soccer, boys and girls, okay, track and field in the spring. Laguna Creek High School hosted the district elementary school track and field meet this year at Cosumnes Oaks. That was a huge lift for us to do it off-site. If, you know, and again, because for whatever reason, the people at Cosumnes Oaks, and I'm not throwing them under the bus, but they were unable to host it. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that there's an equity issue here. Of the 5 high schools that are on the east side of Highway 99, there are 3 stadiums. Of the 4 high schools on the west side of Highway 99, there is 1 district stadium, 1 district facility.
Thank you, Mr. Edom.
Okay.
Your time is up. Next up, Joseph Rustani, who will be followed by Jackson Fau.
Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Joseph Rustani. I'm a current teacher at James Rudder Middle School and a coach at Florin High School. I am speaking on behalf of Florin High School Athletics to advocate for the establishment of a dedicated stadium for our school, a Title I institution that has faced significant challenges in fostering a vibrant sports culture. Currently, our home games are held off campus, which has led to poor student attendance and a diminished school spirit. Having our own stadium would be transformative. It would provide convenient, accessible location for students and the community to gather, significantly increasing attendance and support for our school teams. This change would enhance our school spirit, foster a stronger sense of community, and provide student engagement. Additionally, a dedicated stadium would allow us to host various school events, promoting inclusivity and school pride. Investing in our own stadium is not just about sports. It is about building a positive, cohesive school environment that supports the well-being and success of all our students. Thank you for considering this important initiative, and thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jackson Fowle. I am a social science teacher and athletics coach at Laguna Creek High School. The last time a facilities master plan was created, I was a high school student at Cosumnes Oaks High School, the newest high school in the district. I was able to enjoy the comfort of having a rockin' on-campus stadium to play in and a beautiful performing arts center to sing in. I now teach at Laguna Creek High School, where in order to play a home game for football, we must load up trailers, buses, trucks, leave the city of Elk Grove, leave our community where our students live in. But it's not just football. In order to put on a full marching band performance with adequate seating and facilities, our phenomenal band program must do the same. Our soccer and flag football teams not only have inadequate seating and facilities for their home games, but their parents have to walk on campus just to use the bathroom. And it can easily take 10 plus minutes away from their games to watch their children. Our students not only have to worry about how they'll get to school in the morning, but they also have to make arrangements to go to home football games and powder puff games at a stadium that is not a part of their community and not a part of their attendance boundary. Our players have to play long, tiring games and then get bused back to the school for a home game. The other schools in our district do not have to do this. Their students play, perform, cheer, participate in their communities, Laguna, Valley, Franklin, Florin, PG, these students do not have the ability to do this. I hear the word equitable used a lot in our district. I call upon our civil servants and our community leaders here today to support our communities, our schools, our students by adding the construction of stadiums at every high school whose communities have been neglected by the district's 2-team stadium model to the facilities master plan. Thank you very much.
That's all the blue cards, Madam President.
Thank you. I would now like to start actually with Ms. Chavez Espinosa for comments and questions.
Thank you, folks. I have a little bit of a family emergency, so I'm going to have to leave after I deliver these comments. I apologize. So I think Mr. Forcina and I are turning in a lot of homework today because we also were the board representatives on this subcommittee. It's great to have that done. I want to highlight some of the things that were in the presentation and in the report, since we got to spend a little bit more time with this in 3 areas, and then I just have what I think are some relatively minor questions. So the first thing I want to make sure everybody notes is that in Section 2, enrollment and capacity, the projection is for overall flat growth, but with some pockets of pretty explosive growth, which is neat to have two such very contrasting challenges to deal with. So at build out, 49 more schools. That's pretty comparable to what we estimated last time we did this. Not all of those within the next decade. The problem with that is that some of the state formulas on assistance are district-wide. We dealt with this with CO, right? We built CO. The houses took a little bit longer to come along. And even though we had need for and continue to have need for a high school elsewhere in the district, as far as the state formulas are concerned, we had capacity there for a very long time. So when we have declining enrollment in some parts of the district and booming growth elsewhere, that's going to be something that we're going to have to contend with. So yes, we can talk about boundaries, but some of these distances are so great that, it's going to require construction and smaller populations elsewhere, which is a challenge. I also want to highlight in Section 5, implementation and costs, that the facilities master plan is a living document, right? It says in there somewhere, it's a snapshot, it's a point in time, and the second that we approve it, guess what? Things start changing. We will have to, just like we did last time, continue to adjust priorities. For example, we received a lot of information about arts education today. There's a facilities component there. So, I expect that that's going to be integrated a little bit more. Costs continue to evolve. Funding opportunities continue to change. It does say in there that they are assuming an 8% inflation, which I got to tell you is pretty conservative. It varies across the state, but sometimes 6% annual inflation is an average. So we're going to continue to see cost change. Just yesterday, I heard about one project in another district where when they submitted the request for state funding, it was an $85 million project. And by the time they got their funding, the cost of delivering the exact same project had increased to $125 million because of all of those cost inflationary factors. Sticking to cost, I want to underscore what it says in the report. They do not include land acquisition. And guess what? Land is expensive. So for all of the new sites that we do have to build, it's in there. It doesn't include abatement of hazardous materials. And when we build as much as we do on former ag land, and better living through chemistry was a really long period. So abatement is a really expensive need. And lastly, on that point, I want to mention that the cost, this number in front of us right now, is priority 1 and 2. If you went through by school, everywhere where someone asked for a new stadium, and I think performing arts centers as well, those tend to be your priority 3. Because when you look in detail at your priority 1 and your priority 2, they are absolute necessities, safety, integral to the functioning, right? Like a roof that doesn't leak, HVAC so we can teach and learn at a reasonable temperature. So wherever anybody wants to advocate for something like a stadium or a PAC, unfortunately, it means we have to go back to that list and say, so who would not get air conditioning and who would not get a roof that functions? Those are the trade-offs. And it's awful because I know everyone here would really like to be able to attend functions at a performing arts center and a stadium at every single school. We'd love to be able to provide that, but the trade-offs are real. Continuing along this line of managing expectations, so total cost of $1.988 billion of the most pressing needs only, priority 1 and 2. We're going to have to embrace, and I don't know that it's harder for anyone than it is for me, the fact that we're not going to be able to meet all of those needs, almost regardless of what happens with resources in the future. We're not going to get the money to address all of them. So just speaking of priority 1 and 2, even then, we're not going to have all of the money that we need, and that's really frustrating. There are a few things that are kind of themes for me that are low cost relatively, and I think provide a lot of value to students, employees, families. Shade trees, I did see that in some of the school site plans. And this is partly an FMP issue and partly really just a maintenance issue, right? Like, what are our practices for replacing trees that we lose, things of that nature. Shade is just a great amenity to have on campus. We, thanks to Measure M, have provided shade structures to all of the sites that told us they needed them, at least one. We continue to hear from schools that some of them need more, so that may be an ongoing area of work. Fully accessible playgrounds is another area that we could probably make some improvement. And school murals. Some of these, I think I saw that in there for some of them, but that's just something, again, relatively low cost, adds a lot of value. I have just a few questions, and not all of them require a response. So some folks might wonder why Elk Grove High School or Kerr might require more modernization, given they're undergoing major modernizations right now. And just correct me if I'm wrong, is that because there are specific buildings, parts of the campus that didn't have modernization eligibility when we undertook the current projects?
I'll defer to Sue. Is that the case? Let me see if I understand your question. Are you questioning some of the buildings haven't been touched?
No, I'm just trying to get ahead. Sometimes folks see that we have a major project going on a campus and they might wonder, well, why are you going back to that one, right?
Oh. Well, yeah. Elk Grove High School started as a big program, if you remember. Mm-hmm. We started off and said, these are the goals for this campus. Mm-hmm. It has taken that long to do the project. And we did it in increments so that we were able to launch a couple of the projects as early as possible so that we could keep ahead of escalation. If we had waited and developed all of the plans for everything on that campus and then launched it all at one time, we probably would have seen significantly higher costs. Mm-hmm. So we were able to do some of the earlier projects. Some of it was dependent upon the funding. We had CTE funding that had a time deadline, that it had to be spent by those dates. So we had to prioritize them that way. And then the infrastructure, all of the underground utilities had to be done early in the game because they supported everything else that was coming along. So we had to stage it. And the same thing at Kerr. And that is going to be a common theme that we'll see at any campus that we undertake a big project at that is an older campus. And that's why, in an earlier presentation that I did a couple months ago, we talked about the 50-year-old schools. Those schools often have infrastructure that is either failing or does not support our educational programs anymore. And particularly, it deals with electrical. So that's why the Elk Grove High, you see, continue, here's another project at Elk Grove High. It's really part of the larger project, but to get it through DSA, we've broken them into increments. So here's a building for DSA to focus on now, and then we build the project, and in the meanwhile, the architects are designing the next project. So that is a common way that we'll deliver a project of that scale.
Thank you.
That's one of the challenges of doing it while there's kids there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Flying,
we still
building
have
the
to
plane
run a
while
high
you
school.
fly it. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so also in the facility condition assessment, just perked my interest. When we are replacing water fountains, are we, as a rule, adding water bottle filling stations? Okay.
That's
Sue
our new
says
model.
yes.
That's our new model.
Excellent. That's what I wanted to hear. Last question, which doesn't require a response right now. So, and I promised Mr. Edom this was on my list before you spoke. what can we do to minimize the disruption to teaching and learning for those who have to share a stadium? Because the time that they have to spend and just the work involved in that is significant. So I'm not going to expect a response to that right now. I just want to say that that needs to be on our to-do list. And I will stop with that, Madam Chair.
Those are support facilities. So maintenance and grounds, transportation, central kitchen, so all of the support district. Other or it's either other or alternative campuses. Yeah.
Mr. Pettis, can you use the mic? Just so that we can have your comments recorded.
At Gerber, at the Adult Education Center, we also have the facilities for our lunches. What's it called?
The Food and Nutrition Services, our central kitchen, that's included.
That's included,
Yeah.
And then we have
Transportation's there, M&O's there.
Yeah.
Purchasing and warehouse.
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 Safety and security.
Okay, so we have a whole bunch there. Huh?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I see. Okay, that's other.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to include that.
Do you have any other questions or comments, Mr. Pettis? Because then I'll move to Mr. Fortuna.
yeah.
Go ahead. You already started, so I figured we'll just go ahead and let you
When I
go.
looked at this the other day, I seen like Pleasant Grove High School, which is how old?
I don't know how old
It's all the schools in that region, though. It's not just the high school.
What?
And there's
Yeah, I
more,
know
and
that.
there's more schools in that region.
No, it's all elementary feeder schools and the middle school, but yet, how old is it?
I don't know how old it is off the top of my head.
It's one of the newest school, most newest schools of high schools and
Mr. Press?
in Sheldon, right?
Mr. Press, Sheldon High, Pleasant Grove High School, my children went to the opening in strollers and they're 20, so it's approximately 19 years old.
Okay. And then I look at that budget, 143 compared to Florin and Valley. You know, they're almost about 40,000 more for Valley than that particular. What's going on there? What type of?
Yeah, my recommendation is to go through each of the regions and go to the sites. What you'll see when you look at the facility master plan, as we've described, it's organized by high school region. So every single school has the age of the facility, an image, current site maps, projected site maps if work were done, all of the community engagement. So we've heard a lot about shared stadiums or VAPA facilities. Those would all be reflected in each of the individual site pages. And then estimated costs and for priorities 1 and 2. And I think that was an important thing to stress. There are other kind of wants and desires, but we do have to take care of the needs first. So that would be my best recommendation with the time here. And you could take a look at the difference in the regions.
So
Another piece to pay attention to is the ED specifications, which the board approved in 2019. That set a lot of the requirements with regards to what we wanted our schools and classrooms to look like. And so they built off of that in building this, the facility master plan. So some of those decisions with regards to what types of facilities we have are contained in the ED specifications.
So all this is contingent on the bond?
None of this is contingent upon the bond. This is just
The bond
a,
has to pass first in order to do this?
no. This is just the estimate of what our needs are with regards to our facilities for the next 10 years. We have to identify how we're going to fund it, and that was going to be the next item on the agenda. But as you can see, I'm losing board members very quickly, and we need to have the full board engage in that, or at least the vast majority of the, yeah. So it's not, this isn't contingent upon the bond, but in order to put a bond on you have to have a facility master plan. So they do kind of work together, but this isn't, we're not going to, a bond will not get us to where we need to cover all of these expenses.
It doesn't? So anyway, okay, the land cost, that's another thing that's not on here.
What's that?
What's the estimate on the land cost? How?
It varies. It varies. You know, it's kind of like buying a home. Location matters. What's already on there, is it ready for utility? So it varies depending on where it is.
We do have lands and sites of which
They're identified, but we don't own them.
Correct.
What?
They're identified, but we don't own them. We don't purchase them until we need them.
Oh, my God. All right. So page 8, so I saw, again, I'm gonna bring up the swimming pool issue. I see now the budget on that board, $1 million to refurnish that pool. $1 million we're gonna get a pool. I can't believe that.
It's not our pool.
It's half and half, 50-50.
Not our pool.
Yes, it's on our campus. It's on our, yes, it is, that's on.
Not our pool.
This sounds
50%
familiar.
ours, 50% ours. It's on Rudder land. Yes. Speech education planning, very important. Again, you know, getting that in the picture. Adult ed, I seen that over there on that. I seen that. No construction plan for hot spots in my geographical area. Areas 7, but I refer to area 1, my region, area 1. Okay, can you go back to that, please? And you would see, and if you go do some studying, or when I mentioned to you before, there are new low-income housing in that geographical area. Yet I don't have that recognized on this
We have
map.
capacity. Those are part of the plan.
I don't see it as a hot spot.
These are the 2 areas where we're growing the fastest. All of the areas, there's growth across the, Mr. Perez.
Boulevard,
Small,
2 major development, low income. So I
and
know
we
it's
have,
affecting elementary schools.
and we have capacity in those areas. We already have capacity for those students.
But
We're glad those are being built because that's
it's
it.
going to affect early childhood development, preschool, and all that.
We have capacity.
Mr.
But yet I haven't seen the buildings.
Mr. Perez,
In the
if you
plan.
look in the appendices, the
Yes.
planning staff has done a really thorough analysis of all the housing developments
Mm-hmm.
throughout the district. And you can look in that appendices under the development, and you'll see, if you know the name of the development, it'll show you how fast it's growing, how many permits
did
are being
that.
pulled. And you'll find that in the appendices if you like to look for the data.
I've met with those individuals that manage those.
And we have capacity in
and
those
the
schools.
staff.
So
Yes.
you'll find it there. We're watching all of it. Those 2 areas shown there are the ones that are of the most concern. It's not like we're not watching everything. We are. But those 2 are the ones that concern us the most. Those are the ones that are going to drive a need for a new school the soonest.
Preschool, pre-K, so I'm very concerned about in that area. And my pool, adult ed, continuation plan you have there, I saw that hot spots. That's it. Land costs is what I'm concerned now.
Thank
That
you.
brought it to our attention. Thank you. Very good job.
Mr.
I still want my hard copy. That's 500 pages, 502. It was really hard going through that. Back and forth, back and forth.
I will remind you, when it's all done and pending approval, this will be up on our website, and you can look school by school, by mascot. You can look at the entire thing if you so desire, or you could look at the schools of most interest.
You have an Excel spreadsheet of all this data?
In the appendices, that would be the best way to get that.
I like an Excel spreadsheet.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fortuna.
Thank you. Yeah, I just need to say that the staff that worked on this did an exemplary job. I mean, the square footage that we have in this district is incredible. And to go through each of the sites, thoroughly, as was done, ensuring that all the appropriate people at the various school sites were included as the teams went through, the architectural teams, engineering teams, so on and so forth. And then to put it all together was also a huge task. Nancy had mentioned that both of us participated on committees, and that was really a beneficial task. And what was pleasing is that, to me, is that as we brought up questions on various issues, those questions were heard. They weren't listened to, they were heard. And then modifications were made, and that made it the time really worthwhile beyond seeing what was done. One of the things, and it's already been brought up, and Nancy and I brought up things in the committee. One of the things that's going to be hard for folks at the point in time that we approve plans and look at funding is what we as individuals might believe is first priority isn't going to be first priority necessarily. It has to do with what funding is available, what can be matched, what can be joined. There's so many factors that go into it. I think that there are a couple of outstanding issues that are going to be there, and we need to deal with them. Stadium facilities, it has already been addressed. It's not even a priority 1, priority 2, but there is a tremendous problem with respect to having space on site to carry off activities. It will need to be addressed. Certainly, the issue of performing arts centers, another issue that needs to be addressed. What I want to say with respect to slide 9, as we move forward with the comprehensive middle school and high school construction, that it indeed is comprehensive, which in my mind includes a PAC center and a stadium. And given the distance that school site will be from other facilities, it really makes sense that we would have a PAC and a stadium at our new site. So it's good that the identification is there, and it is going to be a challenge to get priority 1 achieved. So we will all work together and hopefully have, good progress. Thank you.
Thank you. That's included in our approved 2019 education specifications. It's also why it becomes kind of a priority 3 or 4, because we look at that to see the adequacy. If we're meeting what we have already agreed on that's adequate, then it kind of gets put off. But yes, that's how
noting that the shared stadium piece is part of our ed specs. That's part of our planning, just like the size of our schools. But with Measure M, we've put turf fields at all of our non-stadium schools. We've added lights to the non-stadium schools. We've added additional bleachers, and then conversations are about if there's additional work to be done there. So we've done some pieces because we've had men's and women's soccer, as an example, went to the same season, and it would have been impossible for folks to be able to use the fields, grass field, right after football just got done with it. So we have done some pieces without staying within the ed specifications that the board has put in place. We've done other things to make the sites have additional resources at those sites. From Measure M was able to do that.
On a microphone, please, Mr. President.
Mr. Facina requested that we have an actual stadium at the next high school, do we have to change policy, policy? What's the process to go through that?
That school was
The
planning.
design for the next school is down the road. That will come to the board. The board will have, we'll have the architect subcommittee will work on that. So Mr. Frassini is speaking to a distance factor with that particular school, but we haven't designed it yet.
Yeah, but would that school have to apply to our?
It would fit
right now.
It would fit within our existing ed specs.
Okay, so we have to come back, Mr. Frassina.
It does fit within our ed specs.
Thank you very much. Ms. Jean, do you have any questions or comments?
No comments at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Albiani?
I think Ms. Chair Espinoza puts it very well. Our board is in a place of a lot of hard decisions in the near future with ESSER funds running out and with limited funds to do the things we need to do. So it's always one of the challenges up here. I do hear and feel for the speakers tonight talking about a stadium, and so I agree with Ms. Espinoza if we can continue to work on ways to make that easier for them. If it's not going to change, what can we do that we don't do for other schools that we can do to help them? That's that would be a concern of mine. One of the things that I think the public needs to know is when we go to spend this money, our finance committees and our between Ms. Watkins and Ms. Bell and cabinet, we find ways to make it be multiplied. We put in $1 million and find $1 million through a program, and they were so successful in doing it in Measure M. I'm going to say tens of millions of dollars. I don't know the
Hundreds of millions. So
hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. So we raised money and we were able to spend hundreds of millions of more because of the way we spent it very intelligently and making sure every dollar we spent, we made sure couldn't get matched somewhere, couldn't make something else happen. So the number on the last slide is very intimidating. It's a very large number and you're like, oh my goodness. But I think that's just a compliment to the staff that we do our very best to make every dollar worth 2 or 3, and there's multiples of funds. It's quite a process to go through with the state, but hundreds of millions of dollars on our last bond, we were able to get that much more value out of because so many things require matching funds. So those are really my 2 comments. I think the rest of it made. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation. On slides 10 and 11, I attended one of those meetings at Franklin High School in the pouring rain, and I want to acknowledge because that room was packed and the main topic was stadiums, and I don't see that feedback reflected in a way to make the community feel heard. And I think that that's important that while, yes, it is priority 3, but when you look at the feedback that received at each of the community nights, and when you look at the student feedback, it talks about athletic facilities and what's not working and in the wish list. And so I just think that we need to acknowledge it a little bit more clearly, a little bit more loudly, and just validate the concerns that our community is having. Again, I think we all agree, and I'm not saying that we don't agree as a district, the idea, the sense of belonging, the culture that it creates, the school spirit, and the importance that has, as well as the challenges in trying to trek to different stadiums. And so I just really want the community, the students, the athletic directors and coaches to know that we hear that. And I really want us, I'm hearing from all of us, that we want to make a commitment to addressing some of those challenges, even if it doesn't mean we can plan for a stadium tomorrow. If there's something that we can do to address those challenges, I think we really need to make that a priority. Beyond that, I don't have any other questions. I appreciate the work. It is, I know that it is intimidating to think of those 500 pages, but once you start digging into it, it is. Yeah. And I encourage folks, once they have the opportunity to read that document, to dig in, and you learn all the information about the schools, what their needs are, what the priorities are, how much has been, all of that information is, it helps us understand our community a little bit better, our district a little bit better. So thank you for putting all the work into that document.
Thank you. We apologize for the clunkiness of going back and forth, but wanted to show some of the supporting documents which are available. We are asking tonight for approval of the facility master plan, the new 10-year master plan. So with that, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you. I would now like to call for a motion to adopt the Elk Grove Unified School District Facilities Master Plan for 25 to 35.
I move approval of the facilities long-range master plan.
I'll second.
I'd like to wait till our 7 members are here present. Vote on that issue.
Unfortunately, we do need to make this decision tonight. It does not require more than a majority vote. So I would then like to call for the vote. All those, it has been moved by Mr. Fortuna and seconded by Ms. Albiani. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
You don't have 3 votes. You need 4 of the 7.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, she's able to vote. Thank you very much. As was brought up, item number 3 on our agenda is in regards to resolution ordering an election to authorize the issuance of school bond, establishing specifications for the election order and requesting consolidation with any other elections occurring on November 5th. For that topic, we do need to have our remaining board members in attendance so that we can not only hear that presentation, but then take a vote, because that does require a slightly different vote count.
It requires what they call a supermajority, and so we don't have a supermajority here to be able to do that.
So we will postpone that to a special. We need 5. Is it 5?
5 of 7, a minimum of 5.
Okay, board member and superintendent reports.
I'll make it short and quick. Summer's over. School starts tomorrow, in case anybody wasn't paying attention. So in Elk Grove Unified, I have my other superintendents. I love them, but they're in Hawaii and they're in other places all over the place. And just as a reminder, school starts tomorrow, so kids, get your sleep. Teachers, here we go. 24-25 is on the way. Actually, it's here.
And with that, I would then like to adjourn this meeting at 8:27 p.m.